Hello there, and in today's video we are doing a little introduction. I am Roberto Hollis, also known as Roberto_the_pro on Instagram. You can follow me at Twitter at RobertoHollis9, and of course my other FPL channel is FPL Yellow Army. Do go and check that out. Really would appreciate a subscription because of course the FPL season's coming up and we've started from the basics. We've build up in subs and hopefully we can spread the word FPL Yellow Army on YouTube. And I also do general football content on the Roberto the Hornet channel. So I really do appreciate FPL Penguin. Thanks for getting involved, and hopefully that collaboration will come very soon, and that should be really good fun. But in today's video, I'm just giving a little introduction into what I kind of think about the new season and general ideas about my team Watford. And going into this new FPL season, what kind of things you can look out for, basically. So, yeah, hopefully you do go on to enjoy the video. And, I shall hopefully see you soon in the future doing a bit more content. But just to start off with, if you don't already know, there's a channel on YouTube called FPL Juice. They do content every week, weekly live streams and live interviews on Tuesday nights at 8:30, and they're really fun, just doing general FPL content, and over the Euros, of course, it was Euro fantasy content, but also they throw in a few, funny features as well, and they've got some juices, and they are basically club experts for the FPL teams coming up in the season, and I had the honour of getting appointed for Watford for that respect. So basically bringing all the latest Watford news, the best FPL assets, and just trying to think about transfers and the window, who's going to be the best options, what's going on at the club. So yeah, that's been really fun, and I've already brought out 2 videos doing that. On my FPL Yellow Army channel, I've got a playlist with all my content there, and we did a little application video for that, see how I got in. But they have been released now, 2 videos for that FPL Juice content. One of which was just introducing me as a FPL juicer. The other, of course, looking at general options for the midfield, the defence and goalkeeper and the forward line as early days kind of got my thoughts thinking. But now there's been a lot of transfers in the market. Watford have been absolutely trigger happy with their signings. We've now got 10 forwards in the FPL game, which is a bit of a worry in a way, because we need to chop it down and we need to get rid of some dead wood. There's no debating that this Watford team has got a lot of confidence after their really impressive promotion at the first time of asking, and of course without fans. But at the end of the day, there's a few players there that just aren't Premier League level. Your likes of Stipe Perica, Andre Gray, in my opinion, who has just not really got going for this club. He's had very limited games, and when he has played, he's just not got the products, unfortunately, so far. But also, you think, a lot of young players we brought in will probably go and loan them out because they need to get that experience, and they're not going to be ready to get thrown into the big picture yet. We're going to be in a relegation battle, I think. Every team getting promoted is going to be, because it's hard to get that step up and that jump up. But certainly, we've got a lot of depth in our squad, and that's good. It gives us options, but it's a very bewildering thing really from an FPL point of view. So hopefully you could go and check out those videos on FPL Juice. But in today's video, I'm just going to give some general thoughts really, and I'm just going to say what are the Watford players to look out for, some absolute gems that people might not really be aware of and certainly are under thought about because of their price. And general, Watford transfer news. So I'm also going to tell you guys and ladies how I think the season will go. I mean, it's still very early in the window, still a month to go to the season. All pre-season still yet to come for Watford. I think we've got Colchester at the weekend, and then a couple of West Brom and Palace games. But it's very hard because of the level of the squad. We've got something crazy like 35 players in the current training camp. So it is a bit worrying with people like Will Hughes and Nathaniel Chalobah. We don't know if they're going to stay on because there's been so much interest from a lot of big clubs and they've only got a year left on their contract. I'm worried about that because without Will Hughes in that team, we do play very differently. We, do rely on him to kind of protect that back four, and he's going to be a very hard player to replace if he does go. Nathaniel Chalobah was fantastic last season. If I had to lose one of them, of course, I'd say Chalobah, but ideally neither. It's just that we've got a lot of players that we need to kind of bin off. And some of the signings we've made, I think, have been fantastic. Certainly Josh King, I think he's going to be a really exciting signing. He was proven with Bournemouth. He nearly got that move to Manchester United, but that fell through. And I think that, he's a very exciting player for Watford. If the pace can be utilised with Ismaila Sarr and, of course, a new signing Emmanuel Denise, then that could be a really exciting front three. We don't know who's going to play where. Pedro could play up front because he just had a really good championship season. Dennis can play on the left, as can Ken Sema. But also you could have Dennis leading the line up front and trying to get those goals with obviously Sarr playing. And there's a possibility there, obviously, of having, Pedro on the left if he really has to. So we've got so much flexibility right now. And also in midfield, Imran Louaza has come in from FC Nantes. And that's a really good signing from a French club. He looks like a really nice box-to-box player. And we've also signed in Peter Etobo from Stoke City, who actually has played for some big teams. Your likes of Galatasaray in the Europa League. But obviously coming from Stoke City, it doesn't look like too much of an exciting signing. Obviously a lot of players for the future. Mabude is one of them, coming from Rangers. And also you've got to look at some of the really exciting players like Matty Pollock, Kwadwo Bar, who, have been really looking promising for their previous clubs. And at times, Kwadwo Bar looked like he was going to go to Manchester City. So there's certainly a lot of quality in these signings, and we're kind of just going for it. And I hope we don't completely change our, formula of our team, our structure, because we have to keep a lot of that the same because it was effective last season. And I know that you've got to adapt for Premier League level. You've got to be a bit more cautious in your formation. We played a 4-3-3 when the new manager Xisco Munoz came in and completely changed that team ethic and team results. So it's whether we go for a bit more of a pragmatic defence and a bit more of a pragmatic formation. But I think some of the signings we have made have been really, really impressive. To add on to that as well, Danny Rose, what an experienced player. Now, I think at 31 years of age, he still has the experience to do well at this level. And obviously, fitness is going to be a problem for him. And I think with a lot of these Watford signings, there are slight issues of, players with, a bad attitude. And they haven't quite, done it at some of their previous teams, which worries me, I'll admit, because it's a risk. But a lot of these players are also low-risk signings because, we got them on frees. We've got them for very cheap money. You think of Emmanuel Dennis, only 3.6 million that cost. And, he's had a lot of impressive moments for Club Brugge in Belgium. So I think that, the way that we've gone about our signings is exciting. I hope we don't, completely change our, identity because that's what Fulham did in the 89 season. They went straight back down. So it's exciting, but there's obviously a lot of competition in the team, and we hope to keep on with the likes of Ismaila Sarr, Kiko Femenia, who was so good for us last season. So in terms of the players who you should be picking and, looking out for from an FPL point of view, I think, like I said, we're going to go for it, but I think let's just say at a minimum requirement, we stay up. So in terms of forwards, it's going to be a struggle, but we have brought in a lot of, forward quality. So I would personally say the best routes for points is goalkeepers, defenders, and Ismaila Sarr, to be honest, because, all right, we, have heard about these good forwards, but they're still unknown quantities. With Ismaila Sarr, you've got a player who's very likely to play if he can stay in the club. And, at the end of the day, he just is such a big part of the way Watford play. On that right-hand side, Kiko Femenia linking up with Sarr, and I think that he could be a really good option. At 6 million, Watford's fixtures to start the season are actually pretty decent. You got Norwich in those first few games, Brighton as well, and that Tottenham game is the one-off there. But you can always bench your Watford assets for that week and then and bring them back in when the fixture is really nice. So I think Sarr just looks a really, really good option. In defence, obviously, there are some good options because they are very cheap, 4.5s pretty much all round. And Danny Rose is a great example of that. He's maybe one of the next out of position defenders if he plays really attacking and could be the next budget option. But there's a bit of, oh dear, ice cream van going off. Match of the day theme tune. Well, that's a good sign. I want to hear that noise because obviously the Championship last season, especially not going to the games, was tough. Yeah, it's great to be back on Match of the Day, hopefully. And yeah, well, I say hopefully. Of course it will be. But just, hopefully we'll get a bit more, publication, a bit more, representation. Because Watford is, I'm not just being a salty Watford fan, but we are played down a lot by the media. We're not really that appreciated because we did, cement our place in the Prem. We were established for 5 years, and considering we'd never stayed up before then and always gone straight back down before that 15-16 season, I think we've done really well under the Pozzos. So at the end of the day, Xisco Munoz is such a charismatic manager. He's just the perfect manager. He gets his arm around the players. He's got such commitment. He's given up so much for this team in terms of, not being able to see his children. And also, Philip Zinkernagel, alright, he's an option, but let's see if he goes out on loan. There's a possibility of that. Just so many players in this Watford team have got this togetherness, this, unity of the family club that is around Watford, a really community club. But also, look like Kiko Femenia, someone of his quality is a great option for Watford. And, big teams like Barcelona were sniffing out to try and get him. So there's a lot of quality in this Watford squad. And, Femenia last season, he missed the birth of his own child to play a game in midweek. So it is amazing the commitment from some of these players. But I think that defensively, Kiko Femenia has got to be an option, as has Danny Rose and Adam Messina. Messina popped up with a few goals last season. Now, people that are saying Sierralta, I hear what you're saying. He looked amazing. He's very, very strong. I think he models his game on Van Dijk because he's just so good. And you know what they say, tweak the man bun at your peril. He just looks so solid. He looks so confident. And probably one of the best, defenders we've signed in weeks and seasons to come. So he's going to be exciting. But it's going to be a different test up against Premier League attacks. And, we're not going to keep clean sheet week in, week out. But at the end of the day, I don't think Sierralta's got enough goal threat. So I think defensively, you've got to look at Danny Rose and Kiko Femenia, who look like really good options going forward also, if Watford cannot secure that 6 points and that clean sheet. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think the defence is an interesting one. So many options in a quite nice points bracket. And then going into the goalkeepers, I think these are nearly essential to have one of them. Obviously, you can go with something else. You can get someone like Jason Steele, but then that does take up one of your Brighton defensive or Aston Villa possibly. Sorry, if you want someone like Ollie Watkins, for example, and I'll admit to be up against him on the opening day is not ideal. That's going to be a tough game, but we beat them very comfortably in the 1920 season. Let's hope that's a repeat of that. And Jack Grealish might not even be at the club by then, so Watkins is still a good option, but hopefully Watford can get the win there. That will be a big one. And I can just see now the reception that Xisco Munoz has got. The fans haven't even really, been at a live game with him before. So he's been an absolute legend. He's been so nice, so smiley. And it will be a great atmosphere, hopefully, if we can, like it looks like to be full capacity at Vicarage Road. But I think defence is just a bit of a risky one to start, but there could be a lot of attacking potential. Goalkeeper, there doesn't seem much of a risk because at 4 million, Ben Foster is in a lot of people's teams for the second goalkeeper option. Now, of course, if you watch the Cycling GK, you'll have known he does lovely little vlogs and fingers crossed he can get the footage for Premier League matches. But at the end of the day, he's a great option because, look, at that price point, you want to have cheap goalkeepers because you want to invest in the rest of your team. And there's not many, if any, goalkeepers at 4 million who look like they're likely to get a few games. Now, I'll admit, Bachmann's going to get the majority of them all season because he was fantastic, not just in our championship campaign where he made some amazing saves, penalty saves, absolutely outshone some, of those championship goalkeepers. And it was such a frustrating thing for Bachmann to be sitting on the sidelines, not playing, but he showed his quality massively. So he's the man in between the sticks. But at the end of the day, if Bachmann got injured, Foster can come straight in. And yeah, Foster is the sort of player who's, going to get a lot of points, gets a lot of save points. One of the goalkeepers, I think, in all history with the most saves. So it looks really, really good. At 4.5, Bachmann could be a decent option with, the impression he's formed on this Watford team, and obviously with those fixtures that we mentioned before. So I think those are the best options. I think Bachmann, Foster, Sarr, and possibly Danny Rose if you're willing to go bold. And then we have to see with the forward situation. It's so up in the air who plays, but I think Dennis could be a good start. And certainly actually Fletcher we've got to take into consideration if he gets game time. It's very hard to know. Pedro obviously looks a really great prospect. Deeney, of course, if he's fit, he's going to maybe take penalties, but Sarr could be on penalties whilst Deeney is, struggling with fitness. So those are my options. Make sure you, comment what your thoughts are and you're, thinking about any other options that you thought maybe I've missed out. But I think it's going to be a nervy season. I think we're going to go for it, but at times we're just going to have to be a little bit more conservative. We need to get games done and, points won early on because we've got a horrible run of fixtures in November. We'll certainly not want to be owning FPL assets for that run. And definitely not Watford goalkeepers if we concede another hatful like we did against Man City back in the 1920 season. Yeah, it was not pretty. But no, generally I think Watford are a nice little option to invest in this season. Certainly if we can go for it and have a good season, then we could really, reach for the stars. We've been in the best of the rest for a few seasons before we had that awful season and got relegated. So there is the quality there in this team, but I think we have to stay realistic. We have to just target safety first, rebuild if we can stay up, and then maybe think about going higher up the table and rather than looking behind us, look a bit further up. But this team obviously is going to need all it can get, need the experience, and need the goals to kind of stay up. So I think that there could be some nice gems there. I think the most underrated Watford FPL asset is probably going to be someone like Joao Pedro, because a lot of people will be looking at him and seeing, there's not a lot of 5.5 forward options, and Pedro is a decent player for that price. And because he's so young, I think a lot of people will, just dismiss him. But he was fantastic last season, and I hope he gets the minutes because he deserves, to have that development in his game. And another gem that I think could be a really, really nice option. It depends, obviously, if he stays, but Will Hughes, although he's not that attacking, he'll get clean sheets for the extra midfield point because he does defend that and protect that team so well. And if he goes on a little run of scoring, then he could be pretty decent. So, all in all, there's a lot of options for Watford. I think that, Ismaila Sarr is the main one, really, but there's still a bit of the transfer window to go, and we could even make more signings. But that is my video done. I hope you have enjoyed. And as I mentioned, really appreciate FPL Penguin for reaching out. And hopefully you can enjoy some other Premier League fans talking about their teams and their FPL options. But I'm done. I hope you are well and hope we can have a good season in 21 to 22. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.